Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 92 of the J Situation Podcast. I'm recording this on December 14th, 2021. How you folks doing on this fine day? Christmas will be here soon. It will. I'm wrapping up some work stuff to prepare for vacation right now. That's what I'm doing. Engineering all week, ranch work all weekend. Not really hunting right now. I hunted a couple of weeks ago, but I'm just working right now. This year has been more of a work year. Also, I have freezers full of meat. I'm still going to hunt more this year, but I definitely don't have a lack of deer meat in my freezer right now, so it's pretty cool. It's a good place to be, and that doesn't always happen, so I am thankful. I think the time for play will come, but right now it's work. Right now it is work, so it is what it is. Those E-Form 4s, man, have you guys been following that? I have. I've been speaking with Sponsor Shop about it, and been following the updates from the ATF. You know, the ATF emailed FFL holders, Pew Science's one, so we got the email too. And it says that the system, the E-Form system that is, will be offline December 17th through the 21st. Yeah, so that's this Friday through Tuesday. Yeah, so remember I told you that I thought that it was going to go down before the upgrade, and sure enough, they sent an email saying when it will be down. So yeah, buckle up. That's exciting, right? Yeah. Will everything crash and burn, or will it be awesome? We shall see, friends. We shall see. We shall see. I'm rooting for Silencer Shop. I am. I'm excited to see how their system will handle stuff. You know, I want to see how they handle it. I think it'll be cool. And speaking of, the J Situation Podcast is proudly sponsored by Silencer Shop, the most efficient and intelligent way to purchase silencers. It is. They're my infrastructure of choice. And, you know, there's a reason they've grown. And if you've been around for a while in the NFA game, you've seen it. They do to continue to innovate. You can use their kiosk, you do your fingerprints and your photos electronically, and you cut down on errors in your paperwork. Okay, and now that it's this E-Form thing is coming, this is what I'm talking about when I tell you guys I'm rooting for them and I'm excited to see how their system will handle stuff. This is what I'm talking about, because now, yeah, and I think I talked about this last episode where, you know, you have these phases of paperwork processing. You know, and the Silencer Shop kiosk makes it really easy. Well, now that it's E-Forms, you know, Silencer Shop has some, you know, tricks up their sleeve to integrate it, and it should be cool. It should really be cool. And so that's kind of what I'm rooting for. I want to see how it all shakes out. I want to see, you know, how the ATF handles the load, as it were. So, yeah. It's pretty cool, and like I said, if anyone can do it, I think Silencer Shop can. So yeah, they got a money back guarantee, no transfer fees, no paperwork errors, and you know, with E-Forms should be even less. So it's just you and your silencer with no drama. It truly is silencer ownership simplified. That's right, it is. And secondly, and probably most importantly, this podcast is sponsored by Pew Science, pushing the silencer industry forward one test at a time. Visit pewscience.com for the suppression rating, the simplest and most accurate hearing-safe rating for your suppressed small arms. It's based on true human sound perception. Okay, it's in Section 5 of the Silencer Sound Standard on the website. The standard walks you through gunshot noise, sort of like Wikipedia, but more fun because it's about guns. There's 7 parts. They're all on pewscience.com for you to read, and if you haven't dug into it, that's okay. You can skip directly to the suppression rating in Section 5. It lets you know how silencers stack up in comparison to one another with regard to sound at the muzzle and at the shooter's ear, and you get a hearing-safe dose limit for the particular platforms on which the silencers are tested. Okay, if the number's higher, it's going to sound better to you. If it's lower, it's going to sound louder. It's directly tied to human perception. That's all there is to it. Try not to overthink that. But if you do want to overthink it, and believe me, you will. If you want to look at all the data that goes into it, you can see the 6th section of the standard, which contain all the reviews. You know, very detailed. And you may ask yourself, Jay, why do you write so many words? I say, well, it's to convince you of stuff. But, you don't have to look at that. If you just want the bottom line up front, check out Section 7, the rankings table, sortable database tool. You can sort the suppression ratings of all the publicly released test data, and there are links in the table that take you back to the detailed reviews if you want to learn more. Okay. If you're a manufacturer and you would like to use Pew Science for private testing and consulting services, there's a form on the website with which you can submit that inquiry. Your contact information and all test data will be held in strict confidence, unless, of course, you would like Pew Science to release it to the public, which, of course, we can, especially since we believe in the data, since we know how it was measured and analyzed, and can give confidence to the consumers that it is correct. You can support this podcast, Pew Science, and all of the testing that Pew Science does by joining with a membership at pewscience.com. You can also donate. It's on the website there. There's a donate button on a lot of the pages. You can give a little bit, give a lot of it, or give nothing. It's up to you. Something that is free and you can do, doesn't cost you anything. You can give this podcast a good rating on your favorite podcast provider. You can let folks know that silencers and guns are awesome. If iTunes sees that, imagine the tide turning. And one day they wake up and say, maybe guns weren't so bad after all. Maybe I should buy a silencer. And they wake up in their California office, and next thing you know, they're moving to Texas and shooting silencers. It's not that far-fetched when you think about it. A lot of these California companies are moving to Texas. It's interesting that it's happening, but maybe they'll shoot guns. You never know. Famous last words. Okay. I have 4 topics for you today. Sound signature review 660, the KGM R556, and the MK18. Technical discussion. Okay, so we're going to go into that. That was a recent review that was released last week. We will speak technically about that and go over the results with you. Make sure there are no questions, and maybe we can clarify some of the phenomenology for you. Topic 2, listener questions. That's right. Christmas is coming soon, and your questions are the gifts of knowledge that keep on giving. They are. Topic 3, possible deer population control test case for subsonic 300 blackout. Managing wildlife and habitat is cool. So we also know that suppressed small arm research is cool. So why not both at the same time? That's what I posit to you. We can discuss that. And then topic 4, welcome to all the new Pew Science members. Thank you for your support. Your kind words are appreciated, as well as your suggestions for research directions. I do listen to everything you folks say and consider all suggestions, no matter how small. So thank you all for your support. I really do appreciate that. All right, we're going to move into topic 1 at a time of 8 minutes and 28 seconds. Okay, sound signature review 660, the KGM R556, and the MK18. Technical discussion. Another MK18 test. Another interesting phenomenon studied. Distal porting. Weird stuff. Porting on the end of a silencer. Weird stuff. Let's talk about it. Okay. I'll pull up the review here on pewscience.com. Okay. Go to the reviews. Go to the member review here. I'm logged in as a member because I happen to be one. And I'll click on the review 660. It's the latest article that was published on December 9th, last week. Okay. First of all, I will say before we get into this, thank you to KGM for trusting Pew Science to perform this work. KGM is a corporate member of Pew Science, and they are also an R&D client. So they funded a study on the suppression of some of their silencers, and after that contract was complete, they decided to release some of that data to the public. So here we are. Okay. Sound signature review 660, the R556 silencer. It's interesting. This silencer is designed and manufactured by KGM, of whom many of you may not have heard. Some of you do know the name, I think. If you have heard of KGM, it's probably because they're KG made, guys. KGM is KG made. It's the same thing. They're the folks that make Dead Air's silencers for them. Okay, so the KGM is the manufacturer for Dead Air. They make every silencer the Dead Air designs. KGM makes it, and then it's shipped to distributors and stuff and dealers. So, and it turns out KGM also makes their own silencers. Okay, and they're branded KGM, not Dead Air. Okay, so I just wanted to preface this. I know I've seen folks on the internet, they get confused sometimes about this. So I just here to tell you that this is how it is, and this is what happens, and this is how it is. So here we are, okay? Just so there's no confusion. I don't know why there would be at this point, but it is an important distinction to understand. Okay? Okay. Now, the R556, I actually have it in front of me on my desk right now. It's an interesting silencer. You could call, let me think about how I would say this. You could call the R556 a cross between an RMS2 Hopi and a Surefire SOCOM 556 RC2 with an E-brake on the end from Dead Air. If you backed me into a corner and you said, Jay, what would you say the silencer was? I would say it was a cross between an Omega baffle silencer with Surefire vent features and distal porting like an E-brake has. That's what I would say. Because the baffles are not Omega baffles, but they have a lot of similarities to them. They're ported. You got circumferential radial vents on the welded end cap. Okay, so what do you get when you combine a lot of these different technologies? You get a dedicated 556 silencer, because remember, this is a 556 bore silencer. I don't know if you guys know this. This is not a 30 caliber silencer. This is a 556 silencer. It's a 22 caliber silencer. It's not a 30 caliber silencer. So with these combined technologies, you get a dedicated 556 silencer that can trap gas, let it flow relatively well, and when it vents radially with the goal of different kinematic influence. Okay, so what does that mean, kinematic influence? It means thrust vectors can influence how the recoil kinematics may be perceived by the operator of the weapon, theoretically, okay? Okay. So, with that being said, the flow rate of the silencer is higher than typical for a dedicated bore 556 silencer. Okay, you have porting inside, and then you have distal vents on the end of it. Your net flow rate through the system is higher than typical for a dedicated 556 silencer. I can tell you that based on my testing and calculations from the test data. Okay? And the interesting thing is, given that conclusion that we now know, the suppression of the system, the suppression rating is actually fairly competitive for those traits. I can tell you that, and you'll see that later when we look through some of the comparisons, okay? And if you've looked at the article on the website on pscience.com. So that's like an overall thing. And then one thing about the envelope of the silencer, the physical characteristics of it, to give you an idea, if you've never seen one or held one, it's the same size and weight as a rugged razor. Like if you put the mount in the R556 and you stuck it next to a razor, the mount comes out enough to where it'll be pretty much the same length, it's the same weight, and it's the same diameter. Okay, so if you have a rugged razor, or if you've been around one and held one, that's kind of how big an R556 is. Okay? Completely different silencer. Completely different. Nothing in common at all with the razor, except for some curved cone stuff inside. But other than that, it's really not. Excuse me. Other than that, it's not similar. Okay, so let us talk about the data. Let me get a drink of water real quick. Okay, so and I'm holding it in my hand right now. It's gray. Feels okay in the hand. It's interesting. The machining is pretty good. The interesting thing that I noticed, and I don't know if this is controversial or not, but this is just something I noticed, that it almost feels or looks higher quality than the dead air silencers, the dead air rifle silencers. Just this is not based on any technical data. Me saying that, that's just an opinion. That's a subjective opinion of me holding it in my hand. Some of it feels and looks higher quality. Some of it is not as refined, like particularly the mount that I have in it right now, which I think has been changed. And I noted that in the article. We can talk about that later. But so that was a little bit unrefined. But other than that, the silencer itself feels and looks rather polished. In that, not literally polished, but subjectively, the machine looks nice. And so I just found that interesting. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Made by the same people. So, I don't know. Just like, I don't know if anyone's ever said that. And I don't know if anyone other than me is going to say that. But yeah, you heard it from me. And if you have any questions about that, email tech@pewscience.com. Okay. So yeah. When you look at the data, 28.6 overall composite suppression rating on the Mark 18. 28.6. Yeah, that's overall. 26.7 at the muzzle, 22.9 at the ear. Okay, so we're hitting some balance here. If you've been following along at home, on this gun, on this so-called Mark 18, this is kind of hitting a little bit better balance than some of the other silencers on the Mark 18 you've seen so far. Now, stay tuned to be patient because there's a lot that I've tested on this gun, but the current published data set is showing a lot of interesting things so far. The R556 is doing surprisingly well at the muzzle for a silencer with a vent array, which is interesting. That was one of the biggest surprises to me about this review, about this silencer. And I think that having a dedicated bore for 5.56 does pay dividends. And that helps the muzzle suppression rating. There's also some interesting stuff going on in the end cap. If you look inside the silencer, there's I don't know. One of the first times I saw it, the inside of the end cap like this was on an old SWR silencer, where they take the end cap and it's recessed inside and it kind of comes back like a flange. Oh, 1 second. A frog in my throat. Like there's a flange that comes back. Oh, I don't even know what you call that geometric feature. It's like, I don't know. You know what I'm gonna have to do? I'm gonna have to draw it or take a picture of it. All I know is look in the distal end of like an SWR Trident pistol silencer. The KGM R556 does the same thing on the inside end cap. The way it kind of and I don't know how exactly that shapes the flow at the end of the stack and how it interacts with the distal vents, the radial vents on the circumference of the end cap. But I imagine it helps. I imagine it can influence both accuracy and flow, and those are coupled. So I imagine it may do some things, but I don't know. The fact that this thing isn't louder at the muzzle, no, not saying 26.7 is quiet, but the fact that it isn't louder at the muzzle, I think has got to be attributed to the dedicated bore. I think the fact that the bore size is what it is helping a lot. The fact that it didn't drop more with the venting surprised me. But hey, sometimes you just can't predict things until you test them. That's why we test. This stuff is really complicated, and if I knew everything, we wouldn't have to have Pew Science, would we? Yeah. So we're trying to figure out everything, and we will. It's just this is part of it. Yeah. So I do think having a dedicated bore for 556 does pay dividends, and it's helping the muzzle suppression rating. I have no doubt that if you close those vents, the muzzle suppression and thus the bystander's perception would be even more favorable. However, I should say the R556 does not have the capability to have closed vents. All right. Now, KGM makes another silencer called the R30. It has the vent holes tapped for some small screws, and you can actually vary the venting in both flow area and direction by closing all or none or one or two or whatever of the vents, right? So the R556, the one in this review, it's really not meant for that. It's meant to run full vent all the time because it's built specifically for AR use. It's pretty much it's a machine gun silencer. This is supposed to be a silencer for shooting people in the face. All right, this is for your AR, for I guess for military applications. This isn't really like a hunting silencer. This isn't a precision gun silencer. This is let's put this on our AR or our M4 essentially. Okay, so that's kind of what the silencer is for. And so when you have the vents all open like this permanently, it allows for the highest flow rate. And it does allow for the lowest Pew Science omega metric for the silencer. I can tell you that because I've tested the R30 already, and you'll see that data eventually. I've tested the R30, and I can tell you that when you open the vents, the omega metric drops. Why would that be? You're lowering the back pressure. Why would that be? Because you increase the flow rate. How did you do that? You let more gas through it. How did you do that? You open the vents. It's funny. I just real quick, I see some people on ARFCOM the other day. I have been so busy. I don't interact. Sometimes I just check in to see if there's anything crazy going on. I clicked on a couple things. People are saying, they're talking about back pressure. It's like they're still talking about blast chamber when they're talking about back pressure. They're like, well, if you have a big blast chamber, you'll reduce your back pressure. I'm like, really? Are you really think that, dude? Guys, you start thinking about flow rate, guys. The sooner you start thinking about flow rate through the system, and the sooner you understand this is a dynamic system, the sooner you're going to understand silencers a lot better, and the sooner you're going to make more informed choices. And I'm not just talking to the consumers, guys. I'm talking to manufacturers too. The manufacturers posted on ARFCOM. Come on, guys. It's like derivations. I had to actually send a text message to someone and say, hey, look at article 6.40 on pewscience.com. It's a public research article on the omega metric. It's available to members and the the public on the omega metric. It shows what it is. It shows how it's derived. It's like, it's right there. It's like, it's driving me crazy. It's like, they're like, well, and then they say, well, Jay, they're just, consumers just, they're not, they don't know what it is. I'm like, no, they do. And if one of them makes a mistake, there'll be others that correct them that they know. And it's like, how I always talk about, and I've talked about this on now a couple of podcasts now, not only my podcast, but other folks, these manufacturers, sometimes I think the manufacturers think consumers are stupid because the manufacturers aren't even doing their due diligence. So how can you call a consumer stupid if like you're not even reading and learning? You know what I mean? Anyway, it's kind of, it's just an interesting observation in human behavior, really. Human psychology and proclivity. Okay. Anyway, I just thought that was important to note because although I haven't published the omega metric for 556 yet, it's tracking, guys. The reason I haven't published it yet is, one, I haven't had time. Two, you're getting, for 556, you're getting the final answer anyway because you're getting the suppression rating on the freaking AR. And then also, when I do present it, I'm going to have to think about a way to not, muddy the waters because you're going to see numbers that are different. So I'm going to have to make plots that are like prettier and like it's going to be a comparison thing so you can see a trend. And I felt like, you know what? Let me release more, then I'll do it, then it'll look better. And maybe I can release some that I've tested on 308. And then like the Razor, for example, the Razor has been tested now on the MK18 and 308. I think once I get more of those, then when you would draw them on the same plot, you'll be like, oh, interesting. I'm like, I know. You know what I mean? I like that I'm just thinking out loud, but like that's one way I was kind of thinking about presenting the research. Or I might go in a completely different direction and present it a different way. But what I'm telling you is I had one guy ask me why I haven't done it. It's like there's nothing secret here. There's nothing like controversial. It's just that I just haven't made the charts. And I can go into later in this description about why I can actually show you some things about back pressure on 556 in this current article. And if you pay attention, you'll get something that I think the people who read the articles didn't even get. And so it'll help you. And some of you probably already know it looking at it, but it'll be good to confirm. So again, the R556 has pretty high flow rate, pretty low back pressure. So the suppression rating at the ear does benefit from that on the MK18 because the flow rate is high enough such that the ejection port signature contributes less significantly to the at-ear signature the shooter experiences. Okay, because remember, guys, the at-ear signature that you experience shooting an AR, it is a combination of the ejection port signature on the AR and the muzzle signature. It's not just the ejection port signature. It's a combination. So with this silencer, the muzzle signature isn't quite as quiet as it could be if it didn't have the vents. But it's quiet enough to not drop the ear signature as much as you would think. And that's pretty cool. Okay, so that was pretty cool to me. And that's kind of what I was talking about. I was like, interesting balance. And that's how you know that a silencer was kind of, there was some thought that went into the design. Because you're like, interesting for the application. Because this isn't a universal silencer. This is an AR silencer, okay? So that's why that's interesting to me. So that's sort of like this long description I've given for the past half an hour or so, 20 minutes or so. That I've summed up the overall conclusion of the silencer, basically the silencer performance. Okay, so now what I want to do, I'm trying something a little different this time, giving you bottom lines up front like that. Let's look at the technical data and see if we observe what I'm telling you when we look at the raw waveforms. Okay, let's do that. Take a look at figure 1. All right, scroll all the way down. Figure 1. You got figure 1A, figure 1B. Check out the quick blowdown in 1A. See how in figure 1A, you lose all pressure, sound pressure, like around 55 to 60 milliseconds, and then nothing, bolt closing around 80. Crazy, right? Fast blowdown. Now look at figure 1B. Look at the massive initial positive phase pressure in 1B. Look at figure 1B. Look at the blue curve and the black curve. Look at that. Look at the big old triangle. Look at it basically looks like a right triangle shock. Look at that. Look how big it is. Look how long duration it is from, 29.65 milliseconds to almost 30 milliseconds. Big old right triangular shock positive phase. Look at that. Look how big it is. For shot 1 and shot 2 land right on top of each other like that. I mean, you see some FRP in shot 1. You see some extra combustion in there. That's all that is. And then that goes away in shot 2. You get similar. What is that? Look at it. What is it? Gas dump. That's what it is. It's a fast gas dump. Big gas dump early time. Why? Well, you got a lot of vents in the silencer. Gas is certainly going to come out. It almost reminds you of a trash pan on a 308, doesn't it? A big old hole in that thing. Can't contain all the gas. But this is a 556 silencer. Vents in the end. It's doing the same thing. High flow. Interesting, isn't it? That's because we're looking at flow now. We're not talking about 140 dB. No, these are pressure waveforms measured in the free field. Okay. Now, this gas dump that we see early time. Look at figure 2, figure 2A and 2B. This is the impulse now. Looks real similar to the OSS HXQD 556, doesn't it? Look at figure 2A. Look how similar that looks to the OSS, at least for a little bit at first, right? At first, it totally does. On the initial slope, you're like, that's interesting. But then later in time, post-peak, the slope's more gradual with the R556. You're like, that's not decaying quite as fast, is it? It's taking longer for the total venting to occur. It is. And this is an agreement. This is in agreement with other test results and from KGM and experience from KGM. The R556 is not an OSS. It's not. It has vent holes in the end, but it's not an OSS, and it's not a Surefire either. It's not a Surefire RC2. But like I said earlier, it's almost a cross between them in some of the ways. It is. In some ways, in the final performance result, it's a cross between the OSS and the Surefire. Physically, inside the silencer, it has some features of the Surefire, like the venting, but it's done differently, and the baffle stack is different. And with regard to the OSS, there's nothing similar in the R556 other than the holes in the end, and the vent holes in the OSS are axial, not radial. And they vent from a completely different internal geometry than the R556. So the R556 is going to restrict flow more than the OSS just because it almost has omega baffles in it. Ported curved cones with coaxial elements, guys. When you get to the end, you dump gas out of the radial holes. It's fairly simple, frankly. The baffles are not as complex as omega baffles, and the holes in the end make a big difference. The silencer, I'm telling you, it has much lower back pressure than the other dedicated 556 silencers, like the Surefire and the Saker, the Silencer Co. Saker, by a lot, dude. Significantly lower back pressure, and a really good chart to look at to understand the performance of these silencers on the Mark 18 is figure 5. Okay, I'm going to scroll past the member stuff, scroll all the way down. Figure 5. Figure 5 in the review, it's a bar chart. Okay, check it out. Now, I don't know if you've been tracking, but I have placed, now, and here's what I was talking about back pressure. I don't know about how many of you noticed this because I haven't published the omega metric for 556, but I've done something in the charts to give you a preview, as they say. I have placed the order of the silencers in the table in figure 5. in accordance with the omega metric for 556. And I know I haven't published the exact omega metric numbers for 556, but I've been focusing on other things. But again, you're literally seeing test data on the Mark 18. I figured I can wait for now and I'll focus on other stuff. I have been computing the perimeter, however, and you can see that the order in the figure makes sense. Okay, it does. The OSS has the least, well, unsuppressed has the least back pressure. Obviously, it's unsuppressed. And then what's next? The OSS is at the top. The R556 is right next to it. And when you look at, and after me telling you that now, and from what you know about what I said earlier, the at-ear suppression rating on the R556 makes a lot of sense given the test data, doesn't it? Now, one thing in the table that should really start to make you think is the Razor data. It's pretty wild when you really think about it. Huge bore. Loud silencer on 556. But is it only the bore? Or is it also the number of baffles? Really important to consider both aspects of that silencer. It really is, guys. And you heard me talk about that previously, didn't you? So, okay, so what's next in the table? Well, you get the RC2 with the war comp. Lower back pressure than the 3-prong. Why? Why would the Surefire SOCOM 556 RC2 equipped with a war comp mount have lower back pressure than the same exact silencer with a 3-prong? Why? Venting a lot of gas out of the war comp due to a leak. How do we know that? Well, physics, but also the omega metric picks it up. So the next time someone's like, oh, well, the mount is changing the back pressure because of the volume. No. It's flow rate, guys. Come on, man. Enough with this. It's our blast chamber size. We're going to change our back pressure. No. It's flow rate, guys. It is, you are putting high pressure gas through a filter, essentially. And you're expecting it to slow the gas enough so that it cools enough so that when it comes out of the silencer, it's not that loud. And you want that to happen pretty quickly, because if you don't, it's going to stop you up. You're going to get all stopped up. You know what I mean? You don't want that. Okay? So it's flow rate, guys. It's flow rate. So it's interesting, right? And then, so keep going. Let's keep going in the table. So, okay, 3-prong has a little bit higher back pressure, so it's lower on the table. And then what's the last one? The Saker. Very flow restrictive. And that's the bottom of the table. That's just how I and there's no indication in the don't feel bad if you miss this, because it's not there. I didn't write it down. I just put them in order without telling anybody. And I wanted to see who caught it. No one did. Or at least they didn't tell me they did. And if you did, well, you get a pat on the back and satisfaction of a job well done, which is great. And that's all you should need. So, the Saker is very flow restrictive, and it shows. I mean, and you know what? And whenever I look at the Saker, it always makes me look at the RC2 and just shake my head. And I'm just like, dang, the Surefire, the RC2 with the proper mount is quiet to bystanders. And it's the host weapon that's lowering the rating at the ear. Textbook case for silencer tuning if you wanted to do such a thing, really. The Saker needs tuning too, but you have a head start with the RC2 due to the more advanced design. It has higher flow and it's quieter. It just sounds better. Better suppression rating. Understand? And when I say just sounds better, that's not my opinion, dude. That is the data. That is the suppression rating. Okay? Now, I should say I'd be remiss if I didn't say all the tuning in the world is not going to help you mitigate gas on a machine gun with a 5.56 silencer, guys. Unless you have a super high flow rate, you're not doing mag dumps without gas in the face. You're just not. And to get that type of experience with a 5.56 bore silencer, you're going to have to go to one of the silencers toward the top of this chart. You're not going to do it with a Saker, and you're not going to do it with a Surefire, because I put a Surefire on my 11.5-inch mid-length gas tuned gun with the Surefire OBC, and I've done mag dumps, and it's gassy, full auto. It's tuned to the tuned to the tuned. It's the tunedest tuned 11.5 you're ever going to tune. And yeah. Now, if you're just doing semi-auto, well, you'll be fine. Those of us with the sickness, we're not. So yeah, okay. So enough of that about that. But I did want to say that it's very important, I think. Now, where does the R556 fit in? Like I said earlier, I kind of think of it as a cross between the RC2 and the OSS. It's pushing the muzzle suppression while not sacrificing too much at the ear, and it has lower back pressure. Okay, so all that being said, and I know this is crazy, all that being said, the OSS is actually quieter. It's less damaging to your hearing overall if you were the shooter or a bystander with the Mark 18 in the configuration tested, okay, on this Mark 18. And the configuration has been discussed ad nauseum, and there's even an article on it on the web on pewscience.com. So it's crazy that I can say that. And I would never have said that unless I tested it and I analyzed it, and it is unequivocal. Unequivocal? No, yeah, it's unequivocally shown. The OSS is quieter with higher flow rate. To this day, I am amazed by the OSS silencers. The rifle silencers, the HXQD stuff. I'm like, are you serious? Like, if there were any silencer that has surprised me since I started Pew Science, it would probably be the stuff from OSS. I mean, there's cool stuff that I like and that I have out there that are my personal favorites and stuff, for sure. But the OSS stuff, it apparently works, and the fact that it works at all is still pretty dang crazy to me. Like, every time I look at it, because when you look at this chart, I mean, I'm gonna keep making this chart bigger if you haven't noticed already. I'm gonna keep making it bigger, and you're gonna see it, and you're gonna look at it, and you're gonna be like, how come the OSS keeps like beating everything? I don't know, dude. It almost makes me like, I almost have, it gives me ideas of how to make it even better is what it does. And then I think about how scary it could be, and I should probably talk about that to OSS, but I mean, I haven't talked with OSS about changing anything they do. They are a corporate member of Pew Science. I haven't done any R&D for them. I've shared my R&D that I have done on their silencers myself with them, and they have shared their internal R&D they have done on their silencer and other silencers with me. And we're under NDA for all that, so I have seen their research and they've seen my research. And our research comes to very similar conclusions, which I think I talked about that on a previous episode. So that was very encouraging, particularly due to the Omega metric, which was frankly thrilling to see that it was being validated by third parties with different types of apparatus. So yeah, when you look at Figure 5 in this review, it's kind of a testament to how good the R556 does and how incredible the OSS is. There's something to flow rate, guys. There's something to it. And there's a lot of different ways to skin the cat. Some ways are more efficient than others. Some ways are more polished than others. Sometimes you can brute force it. Sometimes you can't. There's a lot of different mousetraps here. But, it's interesting to see which ones excel and how they do it. It is interesting. And I think we're really starting to see some important performance factors play out in the 556 game? I think we are. How does bore size influence overall performance? How many baffles do you need? What can you do inside the silencer to help with flow? What is the effect on how the silencer sounds? How do you balance the muzzle and ear signature on a short barrel AR? What are the thresholds of performance? We're getting really good data to understand all of this. And I feel like the noose is tightening around the neck of understanding the Mark 18, which makes me happy. It makes me happy. We're going to see where this rabbit hole goes, guys. We're going to see. I think I can get some good analysis done in the coming weeks for you, which should be cool. I'm going to take some time off of work for my vacation, and I'm going to, I will have a vacation, but I am actually going to do a little Pew Science too, of course. I have to. I can't stop myself. And it's going to be great. And I'm going to give you some more stuff, and it'll be fun. It'll be fun to speculate and see and get more data. As we grow the data set, it'll be great. So all in all, this R556, yeah. It's durable, quite durable, pretty durable. The one I tested was beat to hell, though. Ink canal inside, and it was eroded. That happens. I mean, I don't know if you've seen a Surefire RC2 with a 3-prong. It'll cut that blast baffle with jetting over time. The R556 has baffle erosion on all the baffles almost. I think KGM, when they sent it to me, I was like, hey guys, I don't know if you know this, but I looked into the silencer. It's definitely been used pretty heavily. Is that okay with you? I'm going to test this. They're like, yeah, we actually think it sounds better once it gets used a little bit. I was like, really? Okay. So I tested it. I mean, but I didn't test a virgin one, so I don't know what the difference is. But hey, they deemed the wear within normal levels. So I was like, all right. So yeah, I don't think you're gonna break it. I think they took that silencer. I think their military sales guy mag dumped it every day or something. I don't know what they did to it, but they abused the heck out of it, and it seems to be fine. The engraving, that's one thing that's interesting. I don't know if they're still doing this, but at least the one I have has the engraving on the rear end. I've never seen this before, but it's literally on the edge, on the rear end of the silencer, which should be good for repairs. You could pretty much destroy everything except the little tiny ring for the mount ring, I guess. Although, I don't know. I guess I could, when my mind starts working, I can kind of see how that might be a bad idea too. But that was interesting. That's why you can't see any writing on it from the side. And then the taper mount on the thing, I've been told that there's an AAC type latch on the new ones, like the production models, like you would get if you bought one. It's supposed to be better than the old AAC latches. I don't know. So when I have a chance to check that out, I will let you know. The mount, as I stated in the review on the website, the mount that I used, they sent it to me with, it is a 3-prong. It's a little tiny 3-prong flash hider, really simple taper mount, coarse thread, taper in front of the threads, and the thing that goes on the gun, like that part of it is just like a hex. It's almost like a hex nut. It's really primitive. Really, it's not really a polished type of attachment system. Just like, it's really simple, but it worked for the test. And I think that maybe perhaps their contract requirement required secondary retention or something. So that's why they did the latch. I don't know. So anyway, that's kind of, I'll let you know if I'm able to mess with the other type. It'll be cool. Sometimes those secondary latch systems are cool. Sometimes they're less cool. It just depends. It just depends how they get done, So yeah. So thanks again to KGM for funding the study. That was actually pretty cool. And thank you to them for deciding to release it to the world. That was really cool. Because these silencers, you don't just see these everywhere. So it's cool that the public gets to see that. And I think it helps the state of practice in general because we get to see what certain components do. And all the people that are members of Pew Science get to see that too. All the companies, they see the member data, they get this. So it benefits everybody to show a report on a product And the fact that a manufacturer released it to the world, that's a big deal for everybody. So, thank you. Thank you, KGM. We appreciate you. Okay. Let's move into topic 2 at a time of 50 minutes and 11 seconds. Okay, we're at listener questions. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, I'm going to close this web browser. Enough about the review. Okay, listener questions. Oh, man, open my spreadsheet here. Okay. I hope I highlighted this correctly last time, or we're going to repeat ourselves. I cannot. All right. I'm going to drink a water here. Listener questions. Christmas is coming soon. And yeah, your questions are great gifts to me. Thank you for that. I do appreciate your questions. They help me learn. And when I learn, you learn. And when you learn, I learn. It's a symbiosis. So we're going to knock some of these out. I'm going to knock out, 4 or 5 of them. Well, I don't know. We're already, what are we? Because we're like almost an hour in, right? But it'll be okay. I'm going to learn something. You're going to learn something. Some of my favorite things. All right. So if you were with us last time for listener questions, we left off. The question that we answered last was question 165, sub-question 37 of the third solicitation. The question was, so far with 556 testing, any reason to worry about titanium silencer's durability on the AR? And I went on to say, yeah, for sure. And you can break stuff, so be careful. And if you want to listen to that, you know what? I'm gonna tell you exactly what episode that was on. Hold on, going back to the website. Boom, 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 boom. How fast can he do it? Podcast. Boom, boom. Scroll down. Listener question. Oh, it was last episode. It was topic 4 on last episode. So if you go to timestamp 53 minutes in the episode 91, that's when I start talking about listener questions and answer it. So if you want to know the answer to that about titanium durability on 556, please head back to episode 91 and listen to it. Okay. So next question 166, sub-question 38. Plan on doing anything with an MCX given how popular they are? Any difference due to being piston? Yeah, man. It's interesting that was asked here because I actually just got that question today in a Instagram DM. Someone asked me, so many new followers asking me stuff, and it's like, oh my gosh, like, I know I have a frequently asked questions page on the website, but not about this stuff. It'd be too much. The questions are too numerous. Yeah, sir, good question, sir, ma'am. Probably. I'd say probably I'm going to test with the MCX eventually. I mean, most likely. It's pretty ubiquitous at this point. Whenever we decide on semi-auto 300 blackout host, they might be in the running, maybe as a comparison. The difference due to piston, I mean, if the piston vents, yeah, could be. I'm not super up to speed on everything about the MCX. There's some MCX nerds. Who was I just talking with about this? Oh, A&R Design. I was talking to them. They were shooting the MCX up in New Hampshire where they are. They're talking to me about with various silencers. It might have some special idiosyncrasies to mess with. And if I recall, it probably doesn't have quite the range of adjustability as a typical AR, if I recall. These piston guns usually don't. And that can potentially be problematic for tuning, but also maybe it would make for a good test host because it has limited combinations. You know what I mean? Jelly Bean? Yeah. Good question. I don't know if I can elaborate any more than that right now because those are my thoughts. Okay. Question 167, sub-question 39. Interested to see how the GCF 6315KM compares to their brake. I can offer you my upper to test 12.5 inch. Huh. I don't know what that is, dude. So I'm going to Google it right now. I'm sorry. I probably should have looked at this ahead of time. All right. Let me get Control C on that. Boom. Go to the old interwebs. Control V. Enter. What in the actual... that is not... Well, guys, clearly this is not a good search term. Okay, GCF compares to their brake. Okay, I'm gonna add flash height. Assuming this is a flash hider, then I'm gonna add that to the search query here. Boom, got it. That was fast. Rooftop defense. Oh, it's forward controls. Oh, it's a flat. Oh, forward controls design. Forward controls. Who are? I've heard of them. Oh, they have a little Texas logo. I wonder if they're near me. Forward controls design. K6315KM, half 28. Oh, dude, that's a weird. Dude, that's a dead air chemo. What is that? Oh my gosh. I don't know if you guys have seen this. This is basically an A2 flash hider, but a dead air chemo. It's a third party. It's the dead air sound suppressor chemo mount of our 6315 flash suppressor, compatible with 223 dead air sound suppressors with chemo interface. We're a big fan of the A2 flash suppressor / compensator. Compensator is the Army TM9-1005-3. They're like referencing the Army technical manual and the Air Force. Oh God, come on, guys! It's inexpensive and does a great job. Okay, so let me go. Now that I understand what this is, guys, sorry. Interested to see how that compares to their brake. I can offer you my upper. Okay, I can tell you right now it's not going to be a big difference at all. If this is one of those chemo things that seals enough, you're fine, dude. The brake and the flash hider in silencers like... Okay, now it depends what silencer you're talking about, but you know those Sandman silencers where you have the brake and the flash hider and stuff, and it's not going to make that big a difference, guys. The reason, and I know a lot of people asked about mounts early on, and then what did I do? I gave you that mount comparison with the Surefire silencer, but it wasn't that was an answer to your question about how mounts change things. No, don't get it twisted. That was only released because of an extreme anomaly noted during testing, in which the war comp leaked so much gas that it created a shockwave measured at my head. And we thought the gun blew up. We thought we did something wrong with the silencer. We physically, I spoke with the designer of the silencer, Barry Duke. I mean, we had conference calls with multiple people to talk about it. That's how deep the war comp thing went, guys, in the beginning last year. Okay? And then and they sent me 3 prongs, and I retested. I was like, oh my God, that's different. And then every single time I've tested the Surefire silencer now, I test the war comp as well. And every time the war comp is sending a shockwave at my face due to a gas leak. So when we talk about mount differences, can some mounts increase back pressure or change flow in some ways? Absolutely. Do some mounts leak and the difference is super drastic? Absolutely, yes. And are some silencers influenced more by certain flow rates that can change in a silencer? Yes. Is this one you're talking about one of those? I don't know, man. I'm not sure it is. And I'm not sure I would hang my hat on worrying about it. First of all, you didn't say what your silencer was. And if it's a Sandman, whatever, I wouldn't worry. If you're putting it on a chemo with another thing, I mean, I don't know. I just don't think it's going to make a difference, due to the way the dead air silencers work. The Surefire silencer, if you put a brake in it, and I'm getting a brake from a gracious consumer, I think he's a Pew Science member. I can't remember at this time. I think he is. The brake for the Surefire can change stuff reportedly, but that's due to the way it interfaces with the inside of the silencer. The dead air silencer, the Sandman, are so simple inside. I don't think anything's good. I feel like I've talked about this too much. I'm not going to beat it at horse. I feel like I'm repeating myself at this point. But yeah, I don't. So your answer to your question, sir, don't waste your time. And thank you for your offer. to test your 12.5 inch, but I'm gonna have to keep it for a very long time. So I don't, unless you want to give it to me, please don't offer your own firearm. Okay. Yeah, that doesn't make sense because test house is going to be kept in perpetuity. People I offer to send me guns to test all the time. It's like no, I'm not doing that. You can give me the gun, or you can sell me the gun at a discount, and I'll buy it from you so I can test with it. But I'm not going to take your personal gun unless you don't want to see it for a long time because I have to test a bunch of silencers with it. You know what I mean? That won't be good. Okay, good question. Thank you for asking that. Question 168, sub-question 40. 10.5 inch and 12.5 inch 308 data. Can it be tamed? Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, probably. For something like that, man, could you imagine 10.5 inch 308? It's a violence. With the charge volume, I'm going to say you're going to need like a dead air Nomad type silencer or a Hyperion or a Helios type silencer, guys. Probably. I would say those are probably the best options for that. Without testing it, that's what I'll say. Now, whether or not the Nomad will take it or not, I think it will. I don't know exactly. I know the Hyperion stuff will. I saw it when I scaled. When the 20-inch 308 results scaled to 16-inch 308 with me shooting them. I was thinking how it would scale to 12.5, and I don't know about 10.5. It's pretty brutal. I'd have to try it. Send me a gun. Like the other guy said, he's going to say, send me a gun. I'll try it for a limited test series. I'm not going to publish a whole test series on 10.5 inch 308. It's worthless for people. They're going to be like, what? But now 12.5 inch 308 might be useful to some savages out there. You can do some interesting stuff with 12.5 inch 308 when you think about it. Especially if you have a good silencer. Man, that is a violent gun. Can you imagine a 10-inch 308? Dude, a fire-breathing dragon. You better put a good silencer in there. You're going to have a frag grenade on the end of your gun. I can think of some silencers that would blow up. Good question. Okay, question 169, sub-question 41. Will you ever record some bedtime stories? Sure. What do you want to hear? I'll totally read a bedtime story to you. I totally will. No. Also, I would probably do a dedicated episode for you guys in which I had a normal episode and a bedtime story episode. So people could just skip the bedtime story one because I feel like I would piss off enough people, something bad would happen or something. I don't know. I mean, it's a waste of time for a lot of people and frankly a little weird. But if you come up with a good one, I'll consider it. Possibly. You might have to pay me. What do they say? OnlyFans? Is that? Never mind. These questions are getting kind of weird. Question 170, sub-question 42. Best 556 silencer that offers low back pressure. Good question. When you say best, do you mean quietest? Well, I mean, because like right now, when you look at the test data that we just talked about in the previous topic, OSS so far. I mean, look at the data, dude. I mean, and I mean, it depends how low your back pressure needs to be. I mean, just look at the stuff tested so far. I'll have to show you more later, but so far, I mean, the RC2 is doing really well. It has lower back pressure than a lot of dedicated bore 556 silencers like the Saker. But it's not as low back pressure as OSS, and certainly not as the R556 either that we just talked about. So, check those out. I mean, we'll see what the future holds. There are definitely other things being tested too. So stay tuned. Stay tuned is what I would say, sir or ma'am. And I can't tell you what the best silencer is. It's the best silencer for you might not be the best silencer for someone else. Okay? It's very important. Thank you for your question. Question 171, sub-question 43. No question, just got to say, I love your work. You are most welcome, sir or ma'am. Thank you for the kind words. I love that you listen and follow my work. So thank you. That's very nice of you to say. That's very kind. Okay, question 172, sub-question 44. Is direct threading a suppressor reliable for a fighting rifle? Sure. I mean, yeah. I mean, frankly, it's probably more reliable than a QD. Frankly, I mean, if you direct thread a silencer to a rifle, you're probably using a wrench, right? There's less moving parts, so in the purest sense, it's more reliable. It's not coming off. I'm not sure that argument really makes sense, and I'm not sure the reliability difference is real in practicality. But then again, your question is a little leading, possibly, to some listeners, so that's why I'm answering it the way I'm answering it. I would say sure, sir, sure. As long as it's torqued correctly, I'd say yes. Thanks for the question. Question 173, sub-question 45. Do you use anything like Rockset to help secure your QD mounts? That is a great question, and my answer is never. I never do. I only use torque. I do not think there is a reason to use Rockset. I don't know why anyone would do it. And I actually got in a little bit of a discussion with Mike at Tornado Tech on Reddit, on this NFA subreddit. He responded to one of my comments. I stand by my conclusion that I don't know why you would use Rockset. I've seen people do it. I don't think you need it. And I think if you torque your mount correctly, you don't need it. Now, if you're doing some special applications to retain something when you can't apply proper torque, well, then that's different. Okay? But if you're just doing a silencer mount on the end of a rifle barrel or something, or cam lock adapter on the end of your pistol barrel, if your mount won't stay on the barrel with torque, something's gone horribly wrong. And you don't need to He-Man the torque. You don't need to go like much over 30 foot-pounds for a silencer mount, dude, for a muzzle device. Surefire includes Rockset with their mounts. And that doesn't mean that the Rockset's correct to use just because the silencer manufacturer gives it to you. Like, no. I don't know if they give it to you because they don't trust the users to torque things correctly or what. Maybe because they have to time the mounts and people don't like to, and that can be a problem with shims and stuff. It could be. I would never use it. It's sand impregnated glue. There's sand in it. It's silica. It's glass. It's glass beads in glue, guys. That's what Rockset is. It's not Loctite, dude. It's silica in glue, and that's why it doesn't come off with heat, because there's sand particles in it. You gotta soak it in water, dude, to get it off. And it is gonna, if I have seen it, I've seen someone put Rockset on their barrel on a muzzle device, and they like hit it with a torch thinking it was gonna make it come off, and then they wrenched it off. They broke the barrel. They broke the threads. Yeah. Because they use a cheater bar to try to put it in a vice. They put the barrel in a vice block, and they use a cheater bar on the end to get the muzzle device off with the Rockset, and they broke the threads of the barrel because the sand particles are like, we're not gonna go anywhere. So you got to soak it in water. It's like I don't even want to begin. I don't want to begin to even entertain. I don't want to entertain messing with that stuff, dude. Like, do I use Loctite sometimes for things? Absolutely. Sometimes you need a thread locking compound. And I'm not saying that don't ever use a thread locking. Oh, Jay said not to use thread locker. No. I didn't say that. I said, I'm just, guys, question, do you use anything like Rockset to help secure your QD mounts? And I'm answering his question. I'm saying absolutely not. I use torque. A QD mount is a muzzle device. Muzzle devices don't need Rockset. They need torque. Okay. I'm gonna. How are we doing on time? Oh yeah, we're hour 9. Okay, that's enough. I'm getting heated. I'm gonna highlight that question as our last question, and I'm gonna save our spreadsheet. That was good. We did a few. That was good. Okay, I'm gonna close that. Okay, next topic. I like doing those. Next topic at a time of 1 hour, 9 minutes, and 53 seconds. We spent a good 20 minutes answering your questions. That's pretty good, guys. That's pretty good. Okay, topic 3. Possible deer population control test case for subsonic 300 blackout. Yeah, I wanted to talk about this. So I don't know if you guys noticed, but I was completely dark on comms this past weekend. If you members had questions, or if any of you folks reached out to me on social media, I did not respond because I didn't see your messages. I was preparing some new wildlife management habitat. That's right, I was. It's one of the things I like to do when I'm not doing Pew Science. I like to maintain adequate habitat for wildlife, which involves managing vegetation, water, supplemental food, predator control, population control, so hunting of certain wildlife, all kinds of stuff. It involves a lot of different things. And so while doing that, I was thinking that there's going to be a surplus of whitetail deer in the area I was working. I was like, there's going to be a lot of whitetail here. And so while doing that, I was thinking there's going to, because of that, it's going to wreak havoc on the native vegetation, and the native vegetation might not have adequate support for their foraging. So I think I might be shooting a lot of does. You understand? And so when you have to kill a lot of does, that means you have some excellent proving ground at your disposal for the evaluation of the efficacy of a cartridge pertaining to lethality. You tracking? So, because if you have a large sample size, we see, here's the thing about murder. With large sample sizes on events like murder mechanism, meaningful conclusions can be drawn. Okay, so the thing about killing stuff, sometimes you get a lucky shot, and sometimes you miss. And without good shot placement, you stand the chance of not recovering all kinds of animals, even if you're using 308, for example. So that being said, I think if I'm able, or if I have to, take a lot of white-tailed deer, I think I might use super and subsonic 300 blackout. I think I'm going to be able to execute kills in the proper ranges for good study of the lethality in both velocity regimes with good ammo. And so I think it'll be cool. I'm just thinking about this. This is not a for sure thing, but it's something I thought about while I was working. I was doing ranch work. I was thinking about it, and I was like, I'm going to talk about that on the podcast. And I should say, this is a cool thing I wanted to talk about too. By the way, I don't know if any of you wildlife managers out there, I don't know if any of you have used Ranch King deer feeders, or there don't have to be deer feeders, they're feeders. And please don't misinterpret this as like some kind of commercial, because I don't have any association with them. I bought some. This past weekend, I bought a few feeders made by a company called Ranch King. I set them up. Dude, they are, first of all, they're expensive, okay? But they are nice, dude. They are really nice. They actually make the all-seasons feeders seem like cheap toys. They do. And I'm just going to come out and say that. I don't know if anyone has ever said that about all-seasons feeders, but I'm not that impressed. Frankly, I mean, the all-seasons feeders are okay, but these are Ranch King feeders, dude. These are plate steel, and they are they're not cheap rivets and stuff. They're cool. All the electronics and the battery, they're all contained within the feeders. Like inside, like on the bottom of the lid, which is really cool. Which is hinged with hydraulics, by the way, which is awesome. And then the spin plate, it actually lowers due to force from spinning, and then it retracts to seal everything when it stops spinning. It's the wildest thing to watch ever. Like when I tested them before I put feed in it, you do the feeder test, you press the timer, and you do it. It's like, 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 it's whoa, that's awesome. It was cool, dude. It was wild. Really high quality feeders. I'm super stoked about it. And for those of you who don't know, or those of you who may live and hunt in places where supplemental feeding for some wildlife and like game animals is forbidden, in Texas we can use supplemental feed for wildlife. Some people, oh, that's baiting, that's not fair. It's like, okay, well, you hunt deer next to a cornfield, so what's fair now? Okay, you know what I mean? So anyway, improving the habitat, using it as an attractant, using it as supplemental feed in hard times, when certain sources of food are scarce, building the deer back up after the rut with high protein, things like that. There's all kinds of different reasons and different research from wildlife biologists about why we use supplemental feed. So anyway, feeders, for those of you who don't know, feeders can take large amounts of supplemental feed, and they will release it to the animals at certain time intervals programmed by you. And you can do that with corn, protein. There's all kinds of different types of feeders. So yeah, I'm super stoked about that. I was working on some of those. I had never used those types of feeders before, so I thought I was going to mention them because I was like, if anyone is in the market, and since it's hunting season, people have been filling feeders, and these are like, you don't have to get on a ladder, and these are like 1,000-pound feeders, dude. Like you can put 1,000 pounds of corn, 1,000 pounds of protein in these things. The protein, which is a different feeder, but they're both made by Range King. You can put the bags in there yourself. You can stand there and do it. You don't have to like stand on the back of your tailgate of your truck. You don't have to stand on a ladder. It's awesome, dude. It saves time. They're expensive, but I don't know. Just the safety aspect alone was cool to me. I was like, wow. I was like, this is, because like I fill feeders a lot that are like these maybe 2,500 pound protein feeders, these big steel ones, and like with the troughs, and you have to like climb up on them and then like get the bags, and like, you get a 50-pound bag up and then like clean and pressing it up to a guy that's standing on top of it, or you're standing on the back of your tailgate, or you're not even on your tailgate. That's not even tall enough. You'd have to stand on like the bed rail of your truck or like on a ladder. It's like, oh my God, dude, pain in the butt. And you're gonna, unless you get a feed truck out there to fill the feeder, you're gonna have 50-pound bags of feed. What, you're gonna put 2 pallets of feed in 50-pound bags by yourself on a feeder that you got to get on a ladder, dude? It's no bueno. So yeah, I thought this was cool. It takes a few years to give good opinions on feeders, so I'm gonna have to have some time with them, and then maybe in a couple years I'll give you that feedback. Okay, so you have to be patient. Okay. So yeah, I'm still setting up that area with those, but I think it's going to be a good proving ground for lethality for subsonic and supersonic 300 blackout. Hopefully, won't have any pigs to deal with. I take a lot of steps so pigs won't be a problem, and that's what I'm actually doing right now. So the feeders aren't even running yet. I'm still taking steps to make sure that when I do turn on the feeders, the pigs will not have a chance. Okay, it's true. I had a guy message me today. He was, I guess he just moved to Texas from New England. And all the people that move from New England always want to know, oh man, you do any pig hunting? Like they want a pig hunt. And I'm like, you want to do that? Okay. It's pest control. I mean, you can certainly do it. It'll get old. So many of them, dude. It's just, they're pests. I hate them. Those pigs, dude. That's just like, oh my God. It's cool. Like it's cool. Like the first 50 to 100 you kill, and then you're like it can be fun. Like, let's be honest. You get night vision or thermal. You go out there and eradicate hogs. Like it's a target rich environment. I mean, if you're into that, but it's not. Unless you're eating them, it's just eventually it starts to feel weird. You're like, why are we killing so many? It's like you're killing. I think I've talked about this before. Like how fun is it to kill rats in your attic? Like, because that's what you're doing. You know what I mean? Anyway, I guess if you could use guns and you'd like it more, I don't know. I don't know what it is. So yeah. All right. Topic 4 at a time of 1 hour, 20 minutes, and 9 seconds. Okay. Man, yeah. Welcome to all the new Pew Science members. Thank you for your support. Your kind words are appreciated. You guys are so nice. It's really cool. And, you give really good suggestions for research directions. And and thank you for your support, and thank you for that feedback. I do take it all into consideration. So I was out in the field. I was doing ranch work. And so when I got back, it was so nice to see some folks had joined. And I always ask you guys, when I always send you an email. And if you're listening to this and you recently joined Pew Science and you haven't gotten an email, stay tuned. And if it takes too long, something went wrong, and I'm late for some reason. I make it a point to send every single person an email, and I ask you where you find it, because I want to know. It helps me to understand. And some folks have been telling me they've listened to the Seaburn Art podcast, the Art and War podcast, which was cool. I was on there. So it's cool to cross-pollinate, honest efforts in the industry, at least. I get approached by some entities in the industry for so-called cross-promotion. I don't. And Mitch and Nathan at the Seaburn Art page, they didn't ask me to promote them at all. They're cool. They're my gun friends now, and I speak with them about stuff, and I only talk about stuff that I use myself, and I only talk about people that I interact with in a positive way, and they are 2 of those people, so they're cool. I would like to have them on my podcast. It would be cool to talk, because I want to learn more about them and more about what they do, because I feel like we didn't have enough time to talk. And so it would be cool to learn more about stuff they do, and then maybe you guys could learn more about them too. And that'd be cool. And I think a lot of you that listen to this I was going to say this show. It sounds weird to say show. A lot of you folks that listen to this podcast might like their show. So check them out if you haven't. And thank you for supporting the research. And I said that earlier. I do mean it. Testing and analysis like Pew Science does is not possible without member support. It's not. When I watched Sesame Street as a kid, I'm dating myself now maybe, but when I watched it as a kid on PBS, they didn't have commercials. And so in between the shows, the PBS announcer guy was like, "This program is brought to you by support from viewers like you," or Sesame Street is brought to you by viewers like, or something like that. I just remember the viewers like you. The viewers like you. They would always say viewers like you. And it resonated with me. It did. I was a kid. I was like, really? I was like, that's interesting. And then I see the telethons they had to raise money and things like that. This is way before the internet. And there was no internet back then. Well, there was, but not for normal people. And so whether or not you are a fan of PBS, that really isn't the point. The point is, supporting a grassroots effort with your hard-earned lunch money is pretty cool, guys. It's cool. So thank you. I'm grateful for it. I'm going to keep working on some more publications for you that you can enjoy here before the holidays. So until next time, friends, stay safe, and I will talk with you folks again soon. All right.